Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another video game hunting here on Player One Start. At the end of February 2020, I was invited up to Schaumburg, Illinois, which is just outside of Chicago, to speak at a technology conference for work, and I thought to myself, well, I might as well hit some of the Goodwills while I'm up there. But before I left, I thought I'd take a look at the Goodwills in my area, and this is the only one where I found stuff of interest, and that's even stretching it a little bit, as most of the time I find a lot of junk that really should have been thrown away. Except for these, now that's what I call music CDs, as I remember seeing these advertised on TV a lot as a kid, but I never really owned one. Mainly because anyone who wanted these songs already had them downloaded, and cut out the songs they didn't want to listen to. Still, I thought about grabbing a couple of these to listen to on my way up north, as it would take a few hours for me to get to Chicago from where I was at. Does anyone out there know anyone who collects these still? I'm not 100% certain you can still get these on CD, but I know they're still selling these compilations digitally, and I think they're up into the 100s now, which I guess is an achievement that this thing is still around. Outside of that, if anyone needs some software to help them with their life focus, a new perspective in personal finance planning, I left this here for you. It takes a long time, but I actually did go through all of these CDs and cassettes to see if there was anything of interest, and nope, I just kept going. It's kind of funny how many of these Goodwills have actually turned into VHS museums. If you have kids and a functioning VCR, this is actually a great way to get movies on the cheap, and kids usually don't care about the quality. Anyone else remember seeing the advertisements for this VHS set of Johnny Carson's classics? I almost bought this, but I'm assuming all of this is for free online now. Moving past all the sporting goods section, my first look at the electronics section actually revealed something, well, promising from a distance, but of course it's disappointing when I actually find out what it is, because this is a 5-disc changer CD player, not a Laserdisc player. I actually owned a Laserdisc player back in around the 2008-2009 timeframe, but when I moved out of my parents' house, that is something that did not survive the move, and I actually ended up selling it off. Wish I wouldn't have done that, but now I'm on the hunt for another one. I found this home video transfer system to be kind of neat. It looks like a way of transferring 16 or 8mm film into VHS, or maybe something out of composite. It looked like everything was complete in the box, but unfortunately I don't have the space for big items like this. And here we go yet again. Here is another Wii Fit board. Actually, this one is complete in the box. I don't really see this too often in a Goodwill. And wow, they are asking $24.99 for this thing. No. I have never seen an electronic rodent trap, but this thing smelled like the rodent was still in it, so I decided not to get too close to it. I imagine products like these were pulled off the shelves when the pandemic hit. And here's a movie film projector. I already have one like this, but it needs some restoration. Unfortunately, this one didn't work either, so I moved on. Now, in February of last year, these were everywhere, these Guitar Hero guitars. This one is specifically for the Wii, and I passed on it, but I've actually been trying to acquire one of these ever since I got Guitar Hero for the Wii, and sadly I've never found one this cheap. Next, I decided to hit the only retro video game store in town before I headed up the interstate into Chicago. Some of you may remember this store from when I did my first video game hunting after the shutdowns were lifted in my state back in June of 2020. However, this was filmed prior to that video. As a result, the shelves are actually a lot more stocked than they are now. They have plenty of Wii U selections, and I am still looking for Wii U titles. Unfortunately, none of these are ones I'm looking for still, so I moved on. Thankfully, I did some PSP collecting, because when I was in shutdown, the PSP actually helped keep me a little bit sane, that and the 3DS. And here we have another Wii Fit board, and they are asking, $10, which is still a high price for me. I wonder what made the pricing go up on these, because I was seeing these between 99 cents and $5 within a couple of months before I got to these stores. Looking at the GameCube selection, I saw they have some of the games put out here. Pac-Man World 3 caught my eye for $10. Sadly, it didn't have the manual, so I didn't pick it up, but now I can't find games like these anymore at all, so I guess I should have just bought it and then replaced it with one with a manual when I found it. If you notice some of the pricing, you can definitely tell how much GameCube games have increased in value in the last year. Moving on to the Sega Genesis case, they have a ton of titles to choose here. There are a lot of sports titles, but also they had some of the higher quality titles picked out up front, and I grabbed a few of these before I finished up my Ultimate Sega Genesis review last year. And I guess that kind of reminds me, as I have not yet started the Super Nintendo review, I'm going to have to pick up some more games for that as well. There weren't too many in this case that caught my eye, and I didn't want to pick up a ton of titles because I was going to be up in Chicago for a week and I didn't want to have to haul these around everywhere I went. I also have been doing some collecting for the N64 lately. However, since I'm far enough away from not needing a lot of these titles yet, I haven't been collecting too many of them. Unless that is something that is desirable to me to have as a collector and not just so I can review it for the Ultimate N64 review, I can wait to pick these up. You know, it's really hard for me to collect for portable consoles because look at how these are all laid out. I would really like to start collecting more for the Game Boy Advance, especially since I have a Game Boy player for the GameCube now. But sadly, it just takes too long to go through this case. I already spent enough time in these stores just looking at all of the different titles that they have for all the different systems. And I can't afford to collect for everything right now, so I'll just have to pick and choose what I can, and I'll have to ignore all the rest. But for those of you that are familiar with the Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance, let me know in the comments below what games I should be collecting for this system, and I'll start compiling a list so I can just narrow my focus down a bit. And here's a sight that I have not seen since. This is a display case that, okay, it may not be filled to the brim, but at least they have game consoles here. For the last 9 months, most of these shelves have been empty or mainly sold out. So it hasn't just been the modern consoles that have been selling out, it's also been a lot of retro systems and used new systems as well. Another thing I like about this store is that they have a ton of accessories here, and I always like to buy them in store rather than online because number one, I can test them in the store, and I can pick and choose which one I think looks the best and is going to perform the best. On my way out, I caught my eye on some PlayStation games here, including Sub-Zero. Breath of Fire 3 was tempting, but it doesn't have the original case, so I had to pass on that one. The one next to it, this Looney Tunes Sheep Raider game, I actually skipped over and didn't notice it until I started replaying through some of this footage. Near those was also the PlayStation Vita selection, which is few and far between, but I always look for these because I can't find Vita titles anymore, and I still think that's an awesome console to play portably. And on my way out, I caught some B-roll footage of an empty aisle here, and this just really shows what a difference a year can make. These shelves maybe have 50% of the games on them that they used to. I don't know if they're not getting as many trade-ins as they used to, or if people are just buying up as many games as they can, as the demand for home entertainment during times where we have shutdown orders and businesses being closed. So this is a sight I'm not used to seeing as often. So this store I came across, I actually don't remember the name. This is in a mall in Schaumburg, Illinois, and it sells a whole bunch of games, board games, video games, and all that stuff, as well as some of the collectibles. And hey, that's exactly the light I use during my streams, so I didn't get that here, but it's definitely the same model. Then they have this Pac-Man coffee mug, a whole bunch of Star Wars collectibles, and again, I don't collect these things mainly because I don't have the space, and number two, I don't really have the money to collect all of these things and have enough to collect the games as well. I find it neat that these handheld games have kind of made a comeback, but I'm not quite sure if a lot of people bought these to play with them, or to have as collector's pieces, or they bought them for their kids and their kids got tired of them, because there's definitely better ways to play electronic soccer and hockey now. Alright, so this is the first Goodwill I actually stopped at outside of Chicago, and you'll notice most of these are at night because I had a conference during the day, and after I was done, I would go out to all the Goodwills in the area just to see if I could track anything down. I was really expecting to find things that I can't necessarily find in my area. And although I will say that their game selection was a lot more expanded, there wasn't really anything worthy of note at getting at this store. On my way out, I did like this wall art. I should have got it, but again, I didn't really think about it. If it would have been DuckTales, I probably would have grabbed it right away. Alright, practically across the street at another Goodwill, I found a lot more games that look like that they're more organized than the other store. But one trend that I started noticing here is that a lot of these are really the throwaway titles that nobody wants. I had a sneaking suspicion before this that Goodwill takes any titles that they get that may be worth anything, and they're either auctioning them online, or they're not putting them out in their regular store because of theft or whatever reasons, because I haven't found any title here that is necessarily collectible. I also struck out at the board games section here, as this is usually where I find big box PC games, but nope, all board games here. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I would like to collect board games, but again, the space and the money issue. Their electronics section here yielded a lot more DVD players and VCRs than I'm used to seeing, and again, another 5-disc changer instead of a Laserdisc player. What I ended up finding here is a very yellowed Macintosh keyboard. I have the iMac that this will match with, but I didn't have a keyboard, so if I can restore this, I think it'll be worth it just for me to pick this up. And just in case you were wondering, yep, more Wii Fit boards here, yep, still overpriced. Oh look, it's the original version of PowerPoint. On to another Goodwill, and this one yielded something promising right off the bat. There's this V3 racing wheel for the N64. I will definitely grab that. I want to see if it works with the N64 version of Hydro Thunder. In the board games and play soccer balls section, I was actually disappointed I wasn't finding any sort of computer software here, but I did end up finding this Disney Infinity 3.0 starter kit for the Wii U. Now, I already have the game, but I don't have any of the figurines, and this being Star Wars themed, yeah, I might grab this one. It is a bit pricier than I'd like it to be, but maybe I'll come back for it. And again, here's another example of how I think that all of the good titles are being sold online, and they put this Mahjong Magic game on here, still completely sealed, but I didn't end up getting it. I've never seen this either. This is a real-life version of Angry Birds Star Wars, made by the Jenga company. I thought about getting this, but again, space and money. Back to what I'm usually looking for, here are the video game selections that they had here. They had one lone sports title, followed by a bunch of other sports titles, and a first-person shooter here or there. Now, who would have thought I'd find Jesus at a Goodwill? Well, howbeit, it's a second steering wheel and pedals. This is exactly the same thing that's boxed up in there, only this one is in much, much poorer condition. It's also for the N64, as you can tell by the plug, but I don't think I'm going to grab it here. I'd rather grab that complete unboxed one. Up near the display case of valuable items, here is a Sega Genesis. Now this is something I'm talking about. And they even have a Sega Saturn with the stick. Unfortunately, I already have the console. I would have really liked to just get the controller, but they're still asking $100 and it's as-is untested. It's also interesting for me to see what games they thought were so valuable they had to put in the case here. Are you kidding me? Alright, the night is still young. Let's go ahead and hit another Goodwill, as the temperature is now starting to plummet, as it is the end of February up in Chicago. But as the temperature drops, my prospects rise. Look at the amount of games they have here. Now these are all junk sports titles, but I noticed that there's a row behind the junk sports titles, and there's just a ton of games here, so I decided to go ahead and go through the tedious process of actually folding down these games, looking behind them, and it looks like from a distance there's a lot more sports titles, but wait a minute, now we're getting to some games that I actually could possibly want to get. Here's Street Fighter 4 for the Xbox 360, and that disc looks immaculate. I think I'm going to go ahead and grab that one. What else do they got behind here? Yeah, more sports titles, but I did see the orange box there, along with Project Gotham Racing, The Elder Scrolls. I mean, there's just a bunch of Just Cause 2 here. I mean, there's just a bunch of games that I definitely would grab for $2.99 a piece. This is what I've been looking for. Popping open that copy of Morrowind, it looks like it's complete, and the disc was in good shape as well. I found some PlayStation 2 titles here I thought I would grab. And sadly, as I didn't want to stay here forever, I didn't film the rest of the games that I got, except for I wanted to show you all of these loose games I had to go through. These are movies and games that are loose without the case, and I did grab a few of them, but I didn't grab too many. So taking a step back, this is the entire rack that I had to go through. There's the electronics section at the end, CDs, movies, and TV series and things like that in here. And I mean, there was just a lot of them to go through. I had to visually scan each of these shelves, as well as go through the video game section. Alright, so I actually spent a ton of time in that store, and I did grab quite a few games, but I ended up going to this GameStop as it was in the same shopping center, and I was still looking for Wii U games that I can't find in my area. Sadly, the selection was quite picked over, or there wasn't really too many titles that I didn't already have in my collection. Really, what's left at GameStop just seems to be titles that nobody cares about anymore, and these were the last ones they were clearancing out for the Xbox 360, PS3, and even the Wii, before you can't find these in there anymore. Oh, there's the child. Again, I don't see selection like this anymore, if I see these at all. It seems like GameStop has finally clearanced all these games out. Looking at the Wii U selection, they had some titles here that are interesting and titles that are good, but still none of the titles I don't already have. So again, that was a bit disappointing, but I kind of expected as much. I may have to start going online to get those last few titles I'm missing. Well, this is only just the first 2 days of my trip. Now, even though this is being posted about a year late, if you'd like to see more of this trip, let me know in the comments below, and I will get to work on that video, digging through the rest of the footage I have from this trip. I still have 3 more days of going through Goodwills to sort through and edit, so if you really want to see this, let me know and I'll get to work on it. But that's about going to wrap it up for this video, as it's getting kind of long as it is. Here is most of what I found in this trip. I already put away all of the loose titles I grabbed, but believe me, there was about 20 or 30 games I grabbed out of there for consoles ranging from the PS4 and Xbox One all the way back to the PlayStation 2. Overall, not a huge haul and nothing too retro, but I did end up getting that Macintosh keyboard, which I am looking forward to trying to retro-bright, and I'm sure there will be a video on that as soon as I attempt that restoration as well. Overall, not a bad game haul. I did see a bunch of things I'm not used to seeing in my area. I find that urban areas are going to have a much better selection than in rural areas, but you never know what you're going to find at any of these places, and I was definitely not expecting to find any of the stuff I got. That said, that is going to wrap things up for this video. Again, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned because I have more content coming. I will see you all in the next one. If you like this video and you'd like to help out with future projects on this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Also, if you enjoy the content of this channel, please remember to click on this subscribe button. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.